The night was cold, and the wind cut across the broken land like a knife. Two alien girls walked slowly under the dark sky, their feet bare against the sharp stones. They had no home, no food, no warm place to hide. The world around them was dead, a place of ruins, storms, and shadows. Every step they took was heavy, because they were weak and tired. One girl was older, her hair tangled and her skin marked with dust. She held the hand of the younger girl, who shivered and cried softly. They had lost everything, their family, their friends, their whole people. Now they walked like ghosts through the remains of their planet. Above them, the sky flashed with red lightning, the sign of a world broken by war. They had no clothes except rags that barely covered their bodies. The cold made their teeth chatter, but they kept moving. If they stopped, they would die. The older girl whispered, "Don't give up, we must keep walking." But her own heart was breaking, because she had no answer to the question that burned in her sister's eyes. Where will we go? The land was filled with danger. Strange machines, once made by powerful armies, now moved without control, hunting anything alive. Creatures born from radiation hid in the shadows, waiting for weak prey. The girls knew this, so they walked carefully, never making too much noise. But even silence could not protect them forever. As the night deepened, they came to the ruins of a city. Tall towers had fallen, streets were broken, fire still burned in the distance. The smell of smoke and death filled the air. The girls searched for a place to rest, but every corner seemed filled with danger. The younger girl cried again, her small voice echoing in the empty streets. The older one held her close, whispering, "Be quiet, they might hear us." Who were they? The hunters, the machines, the shadows, the ones who never stopped chasing. The girls crawled into a broken building, hiding under pieces of metal and stone. The ground was hard, but it gave them a small cover. The older girl tried to sleep, but her ears stayed open, listening to every sound. The wind howled through the ruins, carrying strange voices. Was it the wind, or was it something else? Her heart beat fast, because she knew they were not safe. Not here, not anywhere. The younger girl asked in a weak voice, "Why us? Why is this happening to us?" The older one could not answer. How could she explain that war had taken their home, that soldiers had destroyed everything, that their people were gone? She only said, "One day, we will find safety." But even as she spoke, she wondered if safety was real or just a dream. Suddenly, a sound echoed outside, heavy steps, slow and mechanical. The girls froze, holding their breath. Through a crack in the wall, the older one saw it, a tall machine with red eyes scanning the ruins, searching for life. It was close, too close. Her heart raced as the light passed over their hiding place. She covered her sister's mouth to keep her quiet. The machine stopped for a moment, as if listening. Then it moved on, its heavy steps fading into the night. The girls stayed silent for a long time, afraid to breathe. When the danger passed, the younger one whispered, "I want to go home." Tears filled her eyes. The older girl hugged her tightly, her own eyes wet. "We have no home," she said softly. The words felt like knives in her chest. No home, no clothes, no hope, only each other. They sat in silence, the ruins around them whispering of old memories. Once children had played in these streets, families had lived in these houses. Now everything was gone, burned and broken. The two alien girls were the last sparks in a world of ash, but deep inside the older girl's heart, a tiny flame still lived, a flame of survival, a flame that refused to die. She looked at her sister and thought, "I will not let her be taken. I will not let her end here." That thought gave her strength to keep moving, even in the darkest night, even in the coldest ruin. Outside, the storm grew stronger, lightning painted the sky. The girls held hands and closed their eyes. Neither knew that their lives were about to change. Neither knew that someone was watching from far away. Someone who did not belong to this planet. Someone human. Their journey of pain was only the beginning. The real story had not yet started. The night never ended on the ruined world. Dark clouds covered the sky and red lightning cracked above the broken towers. The two alien girls walked again, leaving behind the building where they had hidden. Their legs shook with weakness, but they forced themselves to keep moving. Something inside told them they could not stay in one place for long because something was following them. The older girl looked behind many times, her eyes searching the shadows. Every time, she thought she saw movement, a shadow slipping from wall to wall, a sound of stone breaking, a faint metallic echo. She did not tell her sister because she did not want her to panic, but her heart beat faster with every step. She knew they were being hunted. The younger girl held her stomach, hungry and tired. Her voice was weak as she asked, "Where are we going?" The older one answered quickly, Away from here, just away. She did not know where safety was, but she knew one thing. If they stopped, if they hesitated, the shadow would catch them. The ruins were endless. Broken roads led into dead forests. Forests filled with black trees without leaves. The air smelled of smoke and ash. Every breath hurt their lungs, but they kept walking. The world was silent, but sometimes silence was more frightening than noise. Then, a sound broke the silence. A heavy crash, metal against stone. The girls froze, their bodies stiff with fear. The older one grabbed her sister's hand and whispered, "Run." They ran through the ruins, their bare feet hitting the sharp ground. Behind them, the sound grew louder. Steps, mechanical and steady, never stopping. The chase had begun. The younger girl gasped, struggling to keep up. Her tears mixed with dust on her face. The older girl pulled her forward, her own legs burning with pain, but the sound behind them never slowed. It was as if the hunter did not tire, as if it would follow forever. They turned into a street of collapsed buildings. The walls were cracked, and pieces of stone blocked the way. They climbed, they slipped, their hands bleeding on sharp edges. The younger one cried out as she fell. The sound echoed in the ruins. The older girl pulled her up quickly. "Quiet," she hissed, but it was too late. The red light of the machine appeared at the far end of the street. It was here. The machine's eyes glowed like fire. It scanned the ground, searching for them. Its steps crushed stones under its weight. It carried weapons on its arms, deadly and cold. The older girl pushed her sister into a broken tunnel. They crawled inside, their bodies scraping against the hard ground. The tunnel was dark, but it gave them a chance. They held their breath as the sound of the machine echoed above. It stopped for a moment, the red light glowing at the tunnel's mouth. The girls shut their eyes, waiting for death. But then, the sound faded. The steps moved away. The machine walked on, thinking its prey had vanished. The girls stayed hidden for a long time. The younger one whispered, "Why is it chasing us?" The older one had no answer. Maybe the machines hunted anything alive. Maybe they were programmed to erase all survivors. Or maybe someone, somewhere, wanted them dead. The thought made her shiver. When they crawled out, the sky was turning gray. The broken sun tried to rise through the thick smoke. The ruins looked endless. The older girl said, "We must keep moving." The younger nodded weakly, but fear was in her eyes. Every shadow looked like a hunter. Every sound made them flinch. The chase had planted fear inside their hearts, fear that would never leave. They walked through a field of broken machines. Giant war robots lay on the ground, rusted and silent. Some were half buried in ash, some torn apart by explosions. The younger girl touched one, her fingers tracing the cold metal. "Will they wake up?" she asked. The older shook her head. "I hope not." But she was not sure. In this world, even dead things seemed ready to rise again. As they crossed the field, the wind carried another sound, not the heavy steps of the machine, but lighter, quicker, almost like footsteps. The older girl turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. Something moved in the distance, not a machine, not an animal, a figure, dark and fast, watching them from far away. It disappeared behind the ruins before she could see clearly. Her blood ran cold. The machine was not the only hunter, someone else was following. The girls quickened their pace, their hearts raced as they entered another broken street. The silence returned, but now it was filled with tension. They knew they were not alone. The world itself seemed to watch them. Every broken wall, every shadow held a secret. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. The older girl held her sister close, whispering, "Stay near me, no matter what happens." The younger nodded, tears shining in her eyes. Both of them felt the weight of unseen eyes. Somewhere out there, in the ruins, in the shadows, the hunters were waiting, and soon they would strike again. The ruins were endless, and the girls had almost no strength left. Their feet bled. From walking on broken stone, their stomachs growled with hunger. Every sound around them felt like a warning, every shadow like a threat, but they kept going, because stopping meant death. The younger girl leaned on her sister, whispering, "I can't walk anymore." The older girl tightened her grip. "You must, just a little more. We cannot stop here." Suddenly, the air shook with an explosion in the distance. The ground trembled, dust rose into the sky. The girls froze, hearts beating fast. They thought another machine had found them. They turned to run, but before they could move, something fell from above. A figure dropped into the ruins, landing between them and the open street. The girls gasped, ready to scream. It was not a machine, not a creature. It was a man, a human, tall, with strong shoulders and a coat torn from travel. His face was dirty, but his eyes were sharp. He looked at the girls with surprise, as if he had not expected to find anyone alive here. The younger girl hid behind her sister, trembling. The older one stepped forward, her fists raised, though her arms were shaking. "Stay away," she said with all the strength she had. The human did not move closer. His hands stayed open. His voice was calm, low, and steady. "I will not hurt you," he said. The girls stared, unsure if they could trust him. For a long moment, silence filled the ruins. The human studied them, noticing their thin bodies, their bleeding feet, their hungry eyes. "You should not be here," he said softly. "This place is death." The older girl narrowed her eyes. "Then why are you here?" The man paused, his expression unreadable. "I have my reasons," he answered. "But it looks like you need help." The younger girl tugged at her sister's hand, whispering, "He is human. I thought humans were gone from this galaxy." The older one whispered back, "That does not make him safe. Her here." T told her to be careful, yet something in the man's voice was different. Unlike the machines, unlike the hunters, he did not sound cruel. Still, she kept her guard up. The human reached into his coat slowly. The girls stepped back, fearing a weapon, but instead he pulled out a small packet. Inside was food, real food, sealed and clean. He tossed it gently onto the ground near them. "Take it," he said. "You look like you need it more than I do." The smell hit their noses, and the younger one's stomach growled louder. She wanted to grab it, but the older girl stopped her. "It could be a trick," she warned. The man nodded as if he understood their fear. "You don't have to trust me," he said, "but hunger will kill you faster than I ever could." The girls stared at the packet, torn between fear and need. Finally, the younger girl grabbed it and opened it. The taste of real food filled her mouth, and tears fell from her eyes. The older one watched, still suspicious. But when her sister smiled weakly for the first time in many days, her heart softened. She tasted the food too, and warmth returned to her empty body. The human watched silently, his eyes calm. "You are not safe here," he said again. "Machines are hunting this area, and worse things too." The older girl finally asked, "Why do you care?" The man sighed, looking into the distance. "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything," he said, "and because no one deserves to die alone." His words cut into her heart. She saw no lie in his eyes, only tired truth. Still, trust was not easy. "Where will we go?" she asked carefully. The human looked up at the storming sky. "I have a ship, not far from here, damaged but still flying. If you want, you can come with me." The girls froze, unsure if they had heard right. A ship, a way out, a chance for life. But was it real, or another trap? The younger girl whispered, "Sister, please, maybe this is hope." The older one stayed silent, her mind fighting. Hope was dangerous, it made you weak, but her sister's eyes begged for a chance, and she turned to the man, her voice steady. "If you try to hurt us, I will fight," she said. The man gave a small smile. "I believe you." Suddenly, the sound of heavy steps echoed again. The machine, the hunter, it was back. Its red light glowed through the broken street, searching. The human's face hardened, his voice sharp now. "We must move now." He pulled out a strange weapon from his side, glowing with energy. The girl's eyes widened. The man stood tall, ready to protect. For the first time, the girls felt something new. Not only fear, not only pain, but the sense that maybe, just maybe, they were not alone anymore. The machine roared, the ground shaking as it closed in. The human raised his weapon, his eyes fixed on the enemy. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The girls clung to each other, hearts pounding. The ruins lit up with red and blue fire. The chase was no longer theirs alone. Now a human had entered their story, and nothing would ever be the same again. The ruins were quiet again after the fight, but the smell of smoke and metal filled the air. The human's weapon still glowed faintly, small sparks fading into the dust. The broken body of the machine lay on the ground, its red eyes dark at last. The girls stared at the wreck, their hearts racing, unable to believe they were still alive. The younger one whispered, "He saved us," her small hands clutching her sister's arm. The older girl stayed silent, her eyes locked on the human, unsure whether to fear him or thank him. The man turned, his face calm though his breathing was heavy. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice steady. The girls shook their heads, though their bodies still trembled from fear. The man reached into his coat and pulled out another small packet. This time, it was not food, but a piece of cloth, soft and clean. He handed it to the older girl, nodding toward her bleeding hand. "Rabbi, but before it gets worse," he said. She hesitated, then slowly took it, her fingers brushing his for a moment. His hand was warm and strangely gentle. She felt her guard weaken just a little. The younger girl asked in a shy voice, "Why did you save us?" The man looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Because you needed saving," he said simply. The older girl frowned, suspicious. "No one helps for nothing. What do you want from us? The man shook his head. Nothing. I don't want anything. I only want you to live. The words confused her, because she had never met anyone who offered help without expecting something in return. The three of them walked through the ruins together. The girls stayed behind him, keeping a small distance. The humans seemed to know the broken streets well, moving carefully and listening to every sound. The younger girl whispered, "He knows the way." And for the first time, she felt a small spark of safety. The older girl remained cautious, yet she could not deny the truth. Without him, they would already be dead. As the sun tried to break through the smoke-filled sky, the man led them to an old building. Inside, it was broken, but still strong enough to give shelter. He placed a small device on the ground, pressing a button. A soft blue light spread across the walls, creating a shield of silence. "No machines will hear us in here," he said. "We can rest for a while." The girls exchanged a look, unsure if they should sit or run, but their legs gave them no choice. They collapsed against the wall, exhausted. The man handed them water, clean and cold. The younger one drank quickly, water spilling down her chin. The older girl sipped slowly, her eyes never leaving him. "Where are you from?" she asked, her voice sharp. The man was quiet for a moment before answering. "Earth," he said. "A place far away. Maybe you have heard of it." The girls looked at each other in surprise. They had heard stories, whispers of humans who once ruled parts of the galaxy, but to meet one here, alive, was something they never imagined. "Why are you here?" the older girl pressed. The man's eyes darkened, his voice low. "I lost my people, same as you," he said, "and now I wander, looking for something worth saving." His words carried pain, the kind they understood too well. The younger girl touched her sister's hand, whispering, "He is like us." The older girl stayed quiet, but inside, she felt something shift. As night came again, the human lit a small fire, its glow warm against the cold. The girls sat close, their faces lit by the flickering light. The man removed his coat and placed it over their shoulders. It was heavy and warm, and the younger girl smiled for the first time in many days. The older girl looked at him, confused. "Why give us this? You will freeze." The man only shrugged. "I have survived worse." The simple act touched her, though she tried to hide it. Later, when the younger girl fell asleep beside the fire, the older one stayed awake, watching. She turned to the man, her voice low. "If we follow you, will you really keep us safe?" He met her gaze, his eyes steady. "I will try with everything I have," he said. "But you must trust me, even just a little." Trust, the word echoed in her mind. It was fragile, dangerous, yet it was also the only thing keeping them alive right now. She studied him in the silence, the scars on his face, the way his eyes seemed tired but strong. For the first time she felt her heart believe him, even if her mind still doubted. Finally she whispered, "If you break your word, I will protect my sister, no matter what." The man nodded, his expression serious. "I would expect nothing less," he said. The night passed slowly, but for once they were not running. The girls had warmth, food, and someone who stood guard while they slept. The older girl lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the man. Maybe he was telling the truth, maybe not. But for now, in this fragile moment, trust was all they had, and trust, even small and uncertain, was enough to give them hope. The fire burned low, casting faint light against the walls of the ruined shelter. The human sat near the entrance, his weapon across his knees, his eyes scanning the shadows. The two alien girls slept close to each other under his coat, their small breaths soft and uneven. For the first time in many nights, they had rest, but rest never lasted long in this world. The man's ears caught something, a faint rhythm beneath the wind. Not the storm, not falling stones, but steps, heavy and slow. His hand tightened on the weapon, his body tense. He turned off the fire with a quick motion, plunging the room into darkness. The older girl stirred, opening her eyes, sensing the change. "What is it?" she whispered. "Danger," the man replied, his voice sharp but quiet. Outside, the night was alive with sound, the hum of machines, the clank of metal against stone, the growl of engines. The hunters had returned, but this time, they were more than one. Red lights moved through the ruins like glowing eyes, scanning, searching. The man cursed under his breath. "They are tracking us. They must have followed the last fight." The older girl's heart raced. "What do we do?" He stood, his weapon humming as it powered up. "We move now." He lifted the younger girl into his arms, light as she was from hunger. The older one ran beside him, her breath short and sharp. They slipped through a back door, the cold wind cutting into their skin. The ruins stretched before them, endless, broken, filled with shadows. Behind, the hunters advanced, their steps echoing like thunder. The red beams swept across the ground, getting closer every second. The man moved quickly, his eyes sharp, choosing paths between walls and fallen towers. The older girl followed, every muscle in her body screaming with pain. She looked back once and nearly stumbled. Machines climbed over the ruins like predators, their weapons glowing. They were not just patrolling, they were hunting with purpose, and the prey was them. The younger girl whimpered, burying her face in the man's shoulder. "They will catch us," she whispered. "No," the man said firmly, "not if we keep moving." His voice was strong, but even he knew the truth. They were outnumbered, and his ship was far. The odds were against them. They reached an open square, the ground cracked and broken. The man stopped, lowering the younger girl. The older one gasped, "Why are we stopping?" He looked at the ruins around them, his eyes sharp. "Because running will not be enough. They will keep chasing until we end it." The girl's eyes widened. "You mean fight them?" He nodded once, loading energy into his weapon. "If I fall, you take her and run. Do you understand?" Her chest tightened, fear mixing with anger. She wanted to scream that they could not fight, but something in his eyes stopped her. He was serious, and he was ready to die for them. The first machine appeared through the smoke. Its red eyes burned, its weapons charged. The man raised his weapon and fired. A blast of blue energy struck the machine, ripping through its chest. It fell, but more followed. The square lit with fire and sparks as beams of light cut the air. The man moved fast, firing again and again, his weapon roaring. The girls crouched behind broken stone, covering their heads. The sound of battle filled the night. The older girl peeked out, her heart pounding. The man fought like a storm, his movements sharp, his aim deadly. But there were too many. One machine broke through, charging toward the girls. She grabbed a metal rod from the ground, her hands shaking. The machine raised its weapon, ready to strike. She screamed and swung the rod with all her strength. The blow did nothing. The machine turned its red eyes on her. Her knees went weak. Then a blast of energy tore through its head. The human's shot, saving her at the last second. He shouted, "Stay down," his voice fierce. She fell back, her chest heaving. He had saved her again. The fight dragged on, sparks flying, beams cutting the ruins. The ground shook with every explosion. Finally, the man hit the last machine with a charged blast. Its body fell in smoke and fire, the night silent once again. The girls stared at him, their eyes wide. His chest rose and fell heavily, his weapon dim and almost drained. He wiped sweat from his forehead, looking at them. "Now you see why we cannot run forever," he said, his voice low. "They will not stop until they find us, until they kill us." The younger girl's lip trembled. "Will they come again?" The man's eyes softened, though his jaw stayed tight. "Yes," he said, "and stronger. They always come back stronger." The older girl swallowed hard, fear filling her chest. "But your ship," she asked, "can it take us away from here?" The man hesitated, his eyes narrowing. "It can, but it is damaged. I will need time to fix it. Time, the one thing they did not have." The ruins were silent again, but silence was no comfort. Every shadow looked like danger, every sound like the start of another chase. The fragile trust they had built was tested now. Could this human really keep them safe, when even machines seemed endless? The older girl did not know the answer, but when she looked at her sister, safe in his arms, she realized something. Trust was no longer a choice, it was the only chance they had. The man looked at the horizon, where smoke and red light rose into the sky. "They know we are alive," he said, "and they will not stop." He turned to the girls, his voice steady and hard. "If you follow me, you must be ready for danger every step of the way." The older girl nodded slowly. She had no choice. The hidden danger was no longer hidden. It was here, and it was hunting them without mercy. The night after the battle was restless. The ruins were quiet, but the human knew the silence was a trap. The hunter's woo. Ode returned, stronger, faster, and more ruthless than before. His weapon was nearly drained, his body was tired, but his eyes stayed sharp. The girls slept close together under his coat, their small breaths shaking from fear. He watched them, thinking, "I cannot let them die here." When dawn came, the sky was gray with smoke. The man shook the girls awake, his voice low but firm. "We move now, we go to my ship." The older girl asked, "Is it far?" He nodded. "Far enough that the road will be hard, but close enough if we hurry." The younger girl's eyes filled with hope. "Will it fly?" The man hesitated, then said, "It will, if I can reach it alive." They set out through the ruins, moving quickly but quietly. The man led the way, his eyes scanning every corner. The older girl followed, holding her sister's hand tight. Every step felt heavy, as if the world itself was against them. But the thought of a ship, a real ship, kept them moving. The ruins grew harsher, buildings twisted by fire, streets torn open by old bombs. The ground was cracked, filled with holes that smoked with strange gas. The man moved carefully, guiding them through narrow paths. Sometimes he lifted the younger girl over dangerous gaps. Sometimes he stopped, raising his weapon at a sound, only to lower it when the noise faded. The tension never left, not for a moment. Then, as they crossed a broken bridge, the ground shook. A roar filled the air, metal grinding against stone. The hunters had returned, their red lights glowing through the fog, dozens of them, more than before. The man cursed, pulling the girls forward. "Run," he said. "Run, and don't look back." The chase began, louder and faster than ever. The machines fired beams of red light, burning the stone around them. Explosions shook the bridge, cracks spreading under their feet. The older girl screamed as a beam nearly struck her sister. The man turned, firing his weapon to cover them. The blast ripped through one machine, but 5 more took its place. "Go," he shouted. "I will cover you." The girls ran, their feet bleeding, their hearts racing. The older one kept her sister close, her eyes burning with tears. Behind them, the human fought like a storm, his weapon flashing blue, his voice fierce. Every shot bought them seconds, but seconds were not enough. The machines were too many, too fast, too deadly. The bridge collapsed behind them, the stone crashing into the abyss. The man barely made it across, his coat torn, his arm bleeding. But he did not stop. He pushed them forward. "There is no turning back," he said, his voice hard. "The ship is close, just beyond the ridge." They reached a wide plain of ash, empty and open. No cover, no walls, only broken ground stretching to the horizon. The girls hesitated, fear filling their eyes. "If we cross, they will see us," the older one whispered. The man's face was grim. "They already see us." And as if to prove him right, red lights lit up the plain. The hunters marched out of the smoke, surrounding them. The girls froze, trapped between death and death. The man raised his weapon, though it hummed weakly, almost out of power. He stood tall, his body shielding them. "If we die fighting," he said. But before the machines could fire, a distant sound broke the air, a sharp metallic whine like an engine waking from sleep. The girls turned, their eyes wide. There, across the plain, half buried in ash, was a ship. Its body scarred, its wings broken, but its core still glowing faintly. Hope burned in their hearts. The man's lips curved into the smallest smile. "There," he said, "our way out." The chase exploded again, the man firing, the girls running, the machines charged, their weapons tearing into the ground. Every second felt like an eternity, every breath like fire. The younger girl stumbled, the older one dragged her up. The man fired until his weapon gave a dull click. Empty, he threw it aside, and pulled a blade from his belt. If the machines caught them now, he would fight with his hands, with his life. The ramp of the ship was broken, half buried. The man pulled at the metal with all his strength. It screeched and groaned, finally opening enough for them to crawl inside. "Go now," he ordered, pushing the girls forward. They scrambled into the dark interior, coughing from the dust. The man followed, slamming the hatch shut behind them. Beams of red light struck the hull, shaking the ship. The machines surrounded it, pounding on the metal. The girls screamed, their hands over their ears. The man staggered to the controls, his fingers flying over the switches. "Come on," he muttered. "Don't fail me now." The ship groaned, its core humming, lights flickering on. Dust fell from the ceiling as the engine roared to life. The ground shook, the walls rattled. The hunters pounded harder, desperate to break in. Then, with a blast of fire and smoke, the ship lifted from the ash. The girls clung to each other as the ground fell away. The machines fired wildly, red beams cutting through the sky. But the ship rose higher, breaking through the storm. The man gripped the controls, his jaw tight. The ship was shaking, alarms screaming, but it flew. The girls looked out the window, their eyes wide. For the first time, they saw the stars. Not broken skies filled with smoke, but the endless night of space. Tears ran down their faces. They had escaped, at least for now, but the man's eyes stayed sharp. He knew the danger was not over. The hunters would not stop, not until the chase ended for good. The ship roared through the sky, shaking as if it might fall apart. The engines coughed, the lights flickered. Warning signals flashed red across the control panels. The man's hands gripped the controls tightly, his jaw locked. Behind him, the two alien girls clung to each other, their eyes wide with fear and wonder. For the first time in their lives, they were leaving the broken ground of their ruined world. But freedom was not certain yet. Outside, the hunters followed, their metal bodies rising into the air. Some had wings, some rode on machines built for speed. Their red eyes glowed in the darkness of space, weapons charging with deadly light. The younger girl cried, "They are still coming." The man's voice was steady, though his heart pounded. "They will always come, but we are not finished yet." The ship shook again as a blast of red fire struck its side. Alarms screamed, sparks flew across the cockpit. The older girl grabbed her sister, shielding her with her body. The man's face stayed calm, though sweat ran down his temple. He pulled levers, flipped switches, and the ship spun sharply. The stars twisted outside the window as the hunters fired and missed. The girls screamed, their bodies thrown against the seats. The man shouted, "Hold on!" His voice like steel. He pushed the ship lower, skimming over the edge of the planet's atmosphere. The hunters followed close, their shadows cutting through the clouds. The ship's hull groaned, metal straining under the speed. One mistake, and it would tear apart. But the man's hands moved with skill, guiding it like it was part of him. He had flown in worse, he told himself, though he knew it was a lie. The girls looked at him with wide eyes. How could one human fight so many? How could he still stand, still protect them after all they had seen? The older girl whispered, almost to herself, "Why risk everything for us?" The man did not look at her, his eyes fixed on the stars. "Because no one else would," he said, "and because you deserve a chance." The hunters closed in, beams cutting through the darkness. The man's fingers flew over the controls, and the ship's wings shifted. Panels opened, weapons hidden beneath the old metal came alive. Blue light burst from the cannons, tearing through one of the hunters. It exploded in fire, the shockwave shaking the ship. The girls gasped, their fear mixing with awe. This was not just a broken vessel, this was a weapon, and in the hands of this man, it was hope. The battle raged across the sky, explosions lighting the clouds. The man dodged, fired, rolled through the darkness. One by one, the hunters fell, but more kept coming. The girls held each other, whispering prayers to no one. Every second felt like the last, but the man fought on, refusing to fall. Finally, the ship broke through the storm. Above them stretched the endless sea of stars, bright and infinite. The hunters still followed, but now the man had space to move. He pulled the ship into a sharp climb, engines screaming. The hunters fired, but the shots missed. He pressed a final switch, and the ship's core glowed bright. "Now," he whispered. The engines roared, and the ship shot forward at impossible speed. The stars stretched into lines of light, and then, in a flash, the hunters were gone. Silence filled the cabin, broken only by the faint hum of the ship. The girls opened their eyes slowly, their bodies shaking. The younger one whispered, We made it?" The man leaned back in his seat, his breath heavy. "For now," he said softly, "we are free." The girls cried quietly, holding each other, tears of fear, tears of relief, tears of hope. Hours passed as the ship drifted through space. The girls finally slept, their small bodies curled against each other. The man sat in silence, watching the stars. His eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp. He thought of his own world, his own people, long gone. He thought of promises broken and lives lost. And then he looked at the girls, sleeping peacefully at last, and he knew why he was still fighting. When they woke, the ship was approaching a small moon. Not much to look at, gray and quiet, but safe. The man guided the ship to a hidden base carved into the rock. As the doors opened, the girls stared in awe. Inside were lights, warmth, and supplies, a place built for survival, a place hidden from hunters, a place he had once made for himself. Now it would be theirs too. The ship landed gently, the engines powering down. The man turned to the girls, his voice calm but firm. "This is home now, if you choose it." The older girl's eyes filled with tears. "No one ever gave us a home before," she whispered. The younger one cried, "Do you mean it? We can stay?" The man nodded, his voice steady but soft. "Both of you, come home," he said. The girls ran into his arms, their small hands clinging to him. For the first time, they felt safe, truly safe. No machines, no hunters, no endless running, only warmth, only protection, only the chance to live again. The older girl closed her eyes, whispering, "Thank you." The younger girl smiled through her tears, and the man held them, his heart heavy but full, because he had saved them, yes, but they had saved him too. Outside, the stars shone bright over the silent moon. The hunters were gone, the danger far behind. For now, there was peace. And in the middle of the cold, endless galaxy, two alien girls who once had no home, no clothes, no hope, had found everything they had lost because one human, tired but unbroken, had said the words that changed their lives forever. Both of you, come home.